Radio, Rahim here in Santa Monica, Riyadh season with none other than Jim Lampley, always ringside for my whole childhood, growing up for every single big fight on HBO. And here we are, some era later, in the Riyadh season. I don't know, do we call this a Riyadh season era?
The world has changed. Yes, the Riyadh season era is a good way to put it. Obviously, it has shifted the financial and economic balance of power in the sport. It's a show of force. It's a display of what you can do, particularly in this entrepreneurial sport, if you have the financial freedom to do whatever you want to do. And as an attention getter and an attraction builder, the Sheikh is turning out to be quite a force.
You lived and worked through an era where HBO and Showtime were rivals, where promoters wouldn't work together to make fights, where we always would say that we didn't get the fight we wanted when we wanted it. And it seemed like there was no solution to something like that. Are you surprised at how quickly His Excellency is able to get the boxing world all on the same page?
Not surprised when I hear the numbers. Not surprised when I hear the kind of dollars that they're talking about. And I think fighters are realistic enough to listen to this, look at this, read the headlines, and understand, okay, this is a new thing, and this has not existed before in the world, and it may not exist forever. So let's get some of these dollars right now, and as many of these dollars as I can get. It's a great time for that.
While the fighters are getting dollars, the fans are getting fights and value for their dollars.
Oh my gosh, yeah. No, I mean, the things that we've seen on pay-per-view from Saudi Arabia, from Riyadh within the past couple of months alone, it's a distinct upgrade in the level of attraction available to fans in this sport.
Well, let's talk about the heavyweight division, something I think that has been most impacted by this Riyadh season influence and really brought what I would say is a new golden age to the heavyweight division that we hadn't seen in some time. We're looking at now an undisputed Alexander Usyk. While he doesn't have the IBF anymore, he did win undisputed. What are your thoughts and feelings on that? The fact that the man's undefeated, he won undisputed, and then they went on to strip him, and so now he's no longer undisputed. How do you characterize Alexander Usyk at this point?
Well, the one thing that I think has been pretty much a fixture in boxing ever since certainly I got involved in the late 80s, going back probably a little before that, but you can pretty much be sure that the business situation will be A, confusing, and B, in some ways illogical and irrational, and the people who will be penalized by that are fans. But that's because the levers are being pulled by promoters, managers, fighters. They're the ones who ultimately are influential in determining. This is not like pro football or pro basketball where you're working under some overarching umbrella contract. These are individual deals. Everybody's got to throw their own sharp elbows around and get what they can get. And now we're seeing a more intensified version of that as people go for the Saudi dollars.
We'll have a rematch for undisputed, or at least the undisputed rematch, we could call it, in December 21st, again in Riyadh. Talk to me about
Usyk versus Fury.
That's right.
Yeah.
First, let's review the first fight.
Very much like the Ali Frazier one of its generation. In the sense that, of course, you know, all the attention in the world was committed to this event and focused on this event. Both fighters could be seen as champions within a certain identity structure. There was one knockdown in the fight, and the fighter who won as the result of the knockdown points. That happened in 1971, and it happened again a couple of months ago.
Did you think that fight was that close? It was just a knockdown that made a difference on your card.
Are you talking about Usyk Fury?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't have thought it was that close. I would have thought Usyk had a little bit more of a pad. I wouldn't have thought that he needed to score the knockdown to win the fight, but he did.
What did you feel about the 9th round knockdown? Obviously, the Usyk camp and some have said that should have been an opportunity for Usyk to finish him, that the referee jumped in too early to stop the action and save Fury. Do you have an opinion on that?
No, so much went on. The fight was so exciting in so many ways. I was thinking of historical comparisons in my head, even as I watched it. I didn't pay that much attention to that particular instance.
The rematch.
But great fights like that, there's always something. And another element we can discuss that tilted the balance of power one way or the other.
The rematch promises to be at least as entertaining as the first. I think this is the kind of fight that needed some time to breathe before we had the rematch. It's just the right amount of time. It'll be at the end of the year. Do you see Fury coming back and reclaiming his titles, or do you think that Usyk can retain that championship and move on?
That depends on Fury's motivation, what choices Fury makes with regard to the priorities in his life at this point. Prior to the first fight, he spent quite a good deal of time doing a reality television show from his ocean home in Morecambe. The instant that anybody enters into a reality television project, he has left the world of concrete reality behind. It did not shock me that Fury might have shown some signs against Usyk of being a little bit overconfident, a little bit distracted, a little bit too wrapped up in the glamour and the glory and the overwhelming public identity now of being Tyson Fury. I lived in an area of public figure status when you knew enough to know what was said about you on the radio and what was said about you by other people on TV and whether you got any print media notice. We didn't have social media. Social media are the most dramatic distortion ever to have taken place in the electronic communication world, and the way in which they affect/contaminate everything, it'll take us a while to total all that up, all right? So Fury allowed himself to get intoxicated by social media prior to the Usyk fight and then learned the consequence of that in the ring. Do you think that Usyk is focused on social media? Or does Usyk strike you as a worker bee kind of a guy?
Yeah, he seems like a worker bee, a warrior. And Fury, like you say, for his antics and such in the ring, I think might have been the difference on the night.
He's a diva. He's a full-on diva in and out of the ring. It's wonderful for British fight fans because they're a little bit burlesque anyway, and gives them something perfect for their constitution to root for. But, Tyson Fury is obviously an attention-obsessed diva, and as such, a product of the social media / reality television era in which we live. By the way, Jim Lampley co-hosts the exclusive viewer chat in real time throughout Saturday's Terence Crawford Israil Madrimov World Championship high definition live stream at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, only on ppv.com.
Let's make sure they got that, because
PPV with PP, pass, poor, piss, whatever.
pay per violence.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that they know where to find you, because the voice of boxing in the ringside.
They get to chat with me during the fight.
And they get to interact with
I
you,
make
which is something we
comments
never got
about
to
what I
do.
see in the fight, and 63 guys or 63 women, whatever, have the right and the privilege at that moment to say, Lampley, you don't have a clue what you're talking about.
Who would say
That
such
is
a
so
thing?
off
Have you
base.
ever heard that before?
Once or twice.
The fight that we are here to talk about, and the one that you'll be on PPV commentating, is Terence Crawford and Madrimov. And the Terence Crawford arc of success, obviously having beaten Errol Spence, was a big trajectory to putting him on the main stage. A lot of people thought that he wasn't getting the kind of media attention that his talent warranted.
That he wants. That he believes he richly deserves after everything he's accomplished in the sport. Yeah, I mean, that Terence, I would guess that he's sort of born with a chip on his shoulder, but he has useful chips on his shoulder that he can use at any moment in a prize fight to motivate himself to a higher level.
Well, he is motivated to a higher level. He's stepping up a weight class. He's taking on the toughest guy in that division. No, layover fight, no warm up, no tune up. Madrimov is a live champion. The next fight beyond that is already being discussed and we expect to get, if he is successful Saturday night, is Canelo. Do you think that Crawford is moving in a wise way, or is he maybe taking bites too big to chew?
Crawford is the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the sport. Canelo is the dollar-for-dollar #1 fighter in the sport. What do you think fighters dream of going to bed at night? As their careers continue to progress, do they dream of being #1 pound for pound? Or when you've got the kind of money that's being thrown around by these people, Riyadh season, does it make more sense to dream of being #1 dollar for dollar? So there's only a certain amount of time left. Crawford's 36. He doesn't have a large window within which to operate toward being #1 dollar for dollar and tasting at least one or two of these paychecks, which are so extraordinary that they're almost burlesque compared to what we've seen in the past. We've seen very big money in the past. Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns would be embarrassed by this money. Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier might be embarrassed by this money. The kind of money that people are making now. Crawford can only get to that money through one vehicle, and that is to fight Canelo Alvarez. Because Canelo is #1 dollar for dollar. Crawford's #1 pound for pound. It's really a spectacular identity fight.
If we see that fight at 168 pounds, he'll be well paid, but will that be a road to victory or his first potential defeat?
Logic doesn't support the notion that you start out at 130, that you progress through 147 and become, globally recognized champion who can box and punch, and then you go up another 21 pounds to seek your goal. That's not physical logic. Logic has never dictated Terence Crawford's career. He is a very strong-minded individual. He is stubborn. He has self-belief beyond all logical limits. If anybody can pull this off, if anybody can go into Saturday night at 154 for the first time against Madrimov, who is a solid, sturdy, Golovkin-type physical specimen, if anybody can do that, it's Terence Crawford. And if he can do it, it's not because of the strength of his body, and I've known him for a while. It's the strength of his mind. And the strength of his mind is, it's too dangerous to say unique among prize fighters, but it's unusual among prize fighters. A great writer, Lance Pugmire, asked me earlier today, to whom would you compare him as a personality? And I said, Sugar Ray Robinson. He's just as stubborn as Sugar Ray Robinson. He's got the mean streak, and he's got the skills and the devotion.
And lastly, Jim, when 2025 rolls around and the rematch for Undisputed has happened and the IBF title between Dubois and Joshua has been fought, and we once again have an undisputed champion of this last Final Four, who emerges as the top heavyweight in the division by 2025?
Craft is king. You have to bet on Usyk.
Radio Rahim with Jim Lampley, always betting on a good interview and haven't lost yet. A pleasure and honor, an icon, a Hall of Famer.
Thanks
Radio
very much.
Rahim with Jim Lampley.